Hello and welcome along to the Enchanted Princess. You're joining me as I've just boarded in Barcelona, Spain for a 7-day Western Mediterranean cruise. It's May 6th, 2023 and it's a beautiful sunny early summer's day. I just love boarding in Barcelona and getting that first glimpse as you're driving across the bridge, looking down at all the ships lined up at the cruise terminal. Now, I actually flew in this morning. Yes, please don't start to give out in the comments. I know I shouldn't do this, but it was only a 2.5-hour flight. I booked the cruise at fairly short notice, so flight options were a little bit limited. Now, in travelling from the airport, I took a taxi directly, and that's a flat rate fare of, at the moment, it's €40. The journey from the airport takes about 25 minutes, and on a Saturday morning there wasn't much traffic. Now, the boarding process was very straightforward. Barcelona is a very well organised cruise port. I arrived at the terminal around 11 AM. Dropping off my luggage was very quick, and after that it was about a 20-minute wait until I was called to the check-in area. So Princess operate a green lane and a blue lane system. Green lane is for everyone who has completed their check-in and actually has their Princess medallion, and the blue lane is for those who have some elements still to complete. In my case, I didn't have the medallion in advance. That is only shipped in advance to cruisers from North America, so not an option for Europeans. In any case, it took all of about 2 minutes to complete the check-in and essentially just to collect the medallion and then board the ship. For those who are new to cruising, or new to cruising Princess in particular, the medallion is effectively a piece of wearable technology that replaces the key card or the sail pass card that you would normally get when checking in. So it does all of the normal things. It opens your room door, it is linked to your onboard account so you can make purchases on board. But in addition to that, it also has a kind of tracking device in it essentially, so you can place orders from any place on the ship using the medallion app, and effectively your order will be delivered wherever you are, whether that's in your stateroom, whether it's in a bar, whether it's on the pool deck or whatever. So this is my first time using it since the medallion was introduced, and I'm looking forward to trying out its capabilities. Like so many cruisers, I prefer to avoid the madness of the buffet on boarding day. So instead I opted for lunch at Gigi's Pizzeria, and it provided a nice calm atmosphere. It's one of the casual dining options that's included in the Princess fare, and the food is quite good. In fact, some people say Princess pizzas are some of the best at sea. Now, while I was waiting for my food, it provided the perfect opportunity to watch the muster safety drill on my phone. Now, word of warning, the safety drill on Princess is a pretty lengthy watch, so be prepared to devote some time to it. After that, the cabins were ready and it was time to check out my balcony cabin on Baja Deck, Deck 11. So my cabin is a standard balcony stateroom and it's on the starboard side near the front of the ship. Now, as I mentioned, I actually booked this at quite short notice, just a little over a week ago, and I booked it availing of Princess's drop and go fares and booked a guarantee cabin. That always comes with a risk, and certainly when I received my cabin allocation a few days ago, I was absolutely delighted to find that it wasn't an obstructed view and it wasn't an interconnecting room. So the footage here just gives a general overview of what the main area of the cabin is like. There is a more detailed cabin tour in a separate video, so perhaps you want to head over there and have a look at that. The Princess balconies, they're generally a little bit narrower than some others in the industry, but still functional and a pleasant space to use. And undoubtedly the Princess beds have to get top marks for being by far the most comfortable at sea. After a little bit of unpacking, it was soon time to head up to the pool deck for the Sailaway celebrations.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to now introduce you to a special gentleman who's in charge of ensuring that we get to all of our beautiful ports of call safely and to enjoy those lovely sea days. He is the master of the Enchanted Princess. He is our Captain Mario Cheruzzi. Let's check in with him now. Here we go.
Hello from the bridge. My name is Mario Cheruzzi and I'm honored to be your captain and to welcome you on board the beautiful Enchanted Princess. Did you know that our magnificent ship is as long as the Eiffel Tower is tall and wider than the eye of the Statue of Liberty? But most importantly, we have over 1,350 crew members of more than 50 different nationalities, and they are all here to make sure you have a dream vacation. I look forward to meeting you all around, and I wish you all a wonderful time on board the Enchanted Princess.
Stanley the bear is Princess Cruises' cuddly mascot, and despite the fact that there seem to be very few children on this sailing, he's proving incredibly popular with the adult guests on board. Now, speaking of adults, in the event that you want to experience an adult-only atmosphere on board, the best place to do this is undoubtedly the retreat pool, which is on deck 17 and also has a sun deck on deck 18, and also the sanctuary, which is on deck 18. Now, the sanctuary is a paid upcharge experience, and basically the spaces on that are quite limited. They do book up quite quickly. So my top tip is to make sure to make your way to the sanctuary on boarding day to make your reservations. I've made a reservation for later in the cruise, so I'll be checking it out at that stage. After the busyness of the pool deck for the Sailaway celebrations, it was nice to return to my balcony. And from there, because the Enchanted Princess was one of the last ships to leave, there was a great view of, firstly, the Celebrity Infinity, then Holland America's New Statendam, and finally MSC Seaview, all leaving port before us. After that, I headed off to the theatre for the headliner act of the evening. It was a folk group called the Trawlermen, and although they were very good, it felt slightly strange for a boarding day. It seemed a little bit low energy for that, and it's certainly the first time I've ever heard the Fields of Athenry performed by a headliner act on a cruise ship.
They cut me down. Now you must raise our child with dignity. Lord, like the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly.
20 to 9, Saturday evening, 6th of May 2023. It was sunny earlier in Barcelona. Now there's a heavy fog. The foghorn keeps blowing every few minutes, which is probably just as well because there are probably quite a few other cruise ships around. While there's still plenty more going on around the ship for the rest of the evening, it's time for me to call it a night. I've been up since 3 a.m. this morning in order to make my flight and get to the cruise on time, so it's time to test out Princess's comfortable bed. I absolutely love when the first full day of the cruise is a sea day. It's the perfect opportunity to have a lie-in, relax and order a room service breakfast. All the more special if it happens to be like it was today, a beautiful fine sunny morning. Perfect to have that on the balcony. So what you're seeing here on screen now is the room service breakfast on offer from Princess. The complimentary breakfast is continental only, and you can order it at a variety of half-hour intervals up until 10 o'clock, and that's exactly what I did. Sitting on the balcony having breakfast provided the perfect opportunity to look at the schedule for the day and see what's happening around the ship. So speaking of the ship, it's probably a good time to give a few facts and figures about it. So the Enchanted Princess was launched in August 2019, and it is one of the Royal class of ships. So essentially it's a sister ship to the Royal Princess, Regal, Discovery, Majestic and Sky Princess. So if you've sailed on any of those, you will be very familiar with the overall layout. There are subtle differences, but nothing really significant. So like its sister ships, it has a passenger capacity based on double occupancy of 3,660. Obviously, there are times when it exceeds that capacity due to the fact that there could be a third or fourth sleeping opportunity in some cabins. So that's particularly the case in prime summer season. Now, in terms of overall size, it's basically a mid-size ship. It's 145,000 tonnes, so it's a long way smaller than, say, for example, Royal Caribbean's Oasis class ships. In terms of cabins, it's got over 2,000, and the vast majority of those are actually balcony cabins, 1,438 of those. So after a morning getting some fresh air and exercise, doing some walking laps around the outdoor decks, it was time for lunch. Please don't judge, sea days are somewhat defined by food. So my decision in going to lunch was based on the fact that this is formal night, and I tend not to usually engage in formal night. I just find the experience of being in the dining room as a solo traveller slightly off-putting for what is built up to be quite a big occasion. So lunch, I would have to report, unfortunately, was a bit of a disappointment. It took quite a long time, although the dining room was not by any means busy, and unfortunately some of the food left a lot to be desired. After lunch, I spent a very pleasant afternoon in the retreat area. So this is basically the adult-only pool and sun deck towards the front of the ship, occupying decks 17 and 18. And just into day 2 on the cruise, I have to say, so far it seems to be quite a well-kept secret. As we sailed more or less parallel to the southern coast of Spain for most of the day, en route to Gibraltar, sea conditions were very good. It was calm, it was sunny, it was a perfect early May day. As I mentioned, tonight is a formal night. Now, that is generally quite a big deal on Princess. They do tend to be more traditional on that side of things, although having said that, it has become a little bit more informal over the years. So in terms of dress code, and I know that that tends to get some people worked up perhaps in advance of their first cruise, formal night, really it is a case of you can dress up as much as you want. You are likely to find ladies in ball gowns and men in tuxedos, but you will also find that other people have just gone for more of a smart casual approach. Now, Princess don't operate the same strict dress code as Cunard do, for example, so you're not going to get kicked out of the dining room for not having an absolute formal ball gown on. But nonetheless, definitely would not suggest anybody considers going to the main dining room if they're in casual clothes. There are plenty of other options on board. On a 7-night cruise on Princess, generally there will be 2 formal nights. They're usually on sea days, and the first of those is really the big celebration. That is when the captain welcomes guests on board. It's when the champagne waterfall happens. There are opportunities for guests to have their photos taken at this, and it's generally just a big celebration. It used to also include a balloon drop, but Princess seemed to have done away with that. Now, even if you're not participating in formal night but still want to see what is going on, it is possible to have a good view of the celebrations from the upper decks in the piazza.
He is your captain from Italy. Make some noise for Captain Mario Ciarucci.
Thank you, and first the most important, formal welcome on board from all of us here on the Enchanted Princess for this beautiful 7-day cruise into Mediterranean ports. So we got 3,515 of you coming from 55 different countries all around the world. And I do have a countdown. Are you ready? All right, so let's start. So 45 from Mexico, 54 from Chile, 57 from New Zealand, number of growing, 61 from Ireland, 307 from Australia, 332 from United Kingdom, 444 from Canada. And ladies and gentlemen, we do have 1,978 from a country called United States of America.
Captain is ready with the champagne. Here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Enchanted Princess, and here to your champagne wonderful celebrations.
For my informal evening, it was a case of a trip to the buffet just to have a snack, and after that enjoying movies under the stars. So I'll leave you with some footage here of getting a sense of what the buffet offering is actually like, which is very, very extensive. While many cruise lines have outdoor movie screens, Princess Cruises have really pioneered the way in terms of their movies under the stars concept. So, subject to weather conditions of course, once nightfall comes, out come the padded cushions for the sun loungers on the pool deck, blankets are provided, and there's also popcorn and cookies and milk on offer to help you enjoy your evening. So all very, very comfortable. And don't forget, with the Medallion app, you can actually order to your poolside view of the movie screen. Time to get started on day 3 of the cruise, and today we are in Gibraltar. So I had hoped to be up in time to see the ship going past the Rock of Gibraltar as it came around the headland this morning, but I think we actually arrived at the dock long before our 7 a.m. scheduled arrival time. So the port is pretty industrialised, and it started off pretty cloudy this morning. Now it was forecast to get up to 22 degrees, so I was hopeful that we were in for a good day. This was my first time to Gibraltar, so I really hadn't done much research and had no definite plan other than I wanted to go to the top of the rock. Now the walk from the cruise terminal to one of the entry gates to the walled town is actually only about 20 minutes, and it's perfectly level surface, so it is quite doable. However, I didn't actually know what the area as such was like on that walk, so I opted to take a minibus. There were minibuses available there at the port at a cost of €5 or £5. One or the other, they seem to accept both, but they did require cash only for that one-way journey. As a British overseas territory, the currency in play is the Gibraltar pound, which is the equivalent of the UK pound sterling. Now, I did actually notice that many places actually had goods also priced in euro, and a number of shops were also quite happy to accept euro as well. In terms of shopping opportunities and so on, it actually happened that our port call on a Monday coincided with a bank holiday. It was the weekend of the coronation of King Charles, so a lot of places didn't actually open until later in the day. I headed along the main street within the walled town, and that took me on about a 20-minute walk in the direction of the cable car, which could take me to the top of the rock, but also to the Botanic Gardens, so they were all in the same area. I chose to visit the Botanic Gardens firstly. Now that was free admission, and it was a very pleasant wander around there. However, I decided to cut my visit a little bit short once I realised that the queues were beginning to build quite a lot at the cable car. Now, what occurred after that was really my own fault. I hadn't actually booked tickets in advance. I had thought about it, but decided to think, well, it won't be that busy, won't take that long to queue, I'll go there early in the morning. How wrong was I? I joined the queue and after about 20 minutes realised that I had just shuffled along no more than I would say maybe 3 to 4 feet. So really I was going nowhere fast, and the prospect of how long it might take to get into the cable car just couldn't even be quantified. At that point I decided to give up on that, and I went outside of the building where I had noticed that there were a number of companies basically touting for business to go on minibus tours. This actually turned out to be a far better option. For a cost of 45 British pounds, it basically covered the main highlights at the top of the rock. So I hadn't quite appreciated that if you went up in the cable car, you would then have quite a distance to cover between the various main attractions. So we went to the Pillars of Hercules, saw the monument there, saw the sightseeing area. We then continued on to St. Michael's Cave. That's where we had our first encounter with the Gibraltar apes. So anybody who may have food in their hand, please be very aware. I saw one unfortunate lady whose bag of crisps were actually stolen. She had the shock of her life. We had a stop of about 20 minutes at St. Michael's Cave, so that was just enough time really to walk through the main cave areas. Now it's quite a fascinating place if you had more time to spend there, and interestingly part of it is used quite frequently as an event space. So you can see there some of it lit up and some of the performance area, which I would say would be really spectacular with the acoustics. From there, it was back onto the minibus for a short drive along those incredibly narrow roads to get to what was obviously the highlight of the entire tour, and that was the stop at the rock itself. Now, there's a viewing platform there which is called the Skywalk, and that's basically a steel structure that has been developed with glass panels. So it's a glass walkway and it's got a glass balcony. So it's all perfectly secure. It would need to be secure, and to that end it's apparently been built to withstand winds of 150 kilometers an hour. Now, while it was a little bit cloudy when I was there, the mist and fog of the morning hadn't quite burned off. On a clear day, you are supposed to be able to see 3 countries and 2 continents. Now, as it was from the viewing area, you could clearly see on one side Spain, that's where the beach was that we were looking down on just there in that footage, and obviously on the other side the territory of Gibraltar and our cruise ship in the distance. Now, we only had about 10 minutes or so at this particular stop. There's a significant queue of minibuses along that route, so really there is a need for people to get back on board quickly so that they can all move off in convoy. And after that we made our way from there back down on those narrow winding roads. So absolute applause to minibus and tour guide drivers in Gibraltar for navigating their way around that incredibly narrow road network. Now, we got dropped off again at the cable car, and basically from there it was a case of having a very pleasant wander back along the main street. In comparison to the morning, when most places had been closed, everything had opened back up at this stage, so it was a much more lively atmosphere with all the shops, restaurants, bars, etc. all open. Now, I actually walked back to the cruise port, given that I had got a sense in the morning on the shuttle in of what the walk was actually like. It was perfectly fine. There were lots of other people doing it. It's entirely safe. So there was a bit of a queue getting back on board, but it moved pretty quickly, so no issues in that front. You always know you're on a princess cruise when you hear that distinctive horn. For anybody who doesn't know what the horn sound is about, it's basically because it's the theme of the 1960s, I think, TV show The Love Boat. That was actually filmed on board Princess Cruises, so there is this ongoing relationship between the TV show and Princess Cruises. So there you go, piece of interesting knowledge. Now, in terms of the evening, I went to the main dining room for dinner. I'm happy to report that it was much improved on my experience on boarding day, which was incredibly slow, and also on the somewhat cold food that I got for lunchtime yesterday. After that, the main performance in the theatre was a British comedian. I believe he made an appearance on Britain's Got Talent at some stage. Honestly, judging from the crowd reaction and my own perception, he was not very good. So definitely not something I'd be beating a path to return to his show. At day 4, we're now midway through the cruise, and it's another sea day as we travel from Gibraltar to Marseille in France. So another sea day and sunshine means another opportunity for breakfast on the balcony. Now, I've been quite impressed this time round with Princess room service delivery for breakfast. It arrives within the time slot that I've identified, and it's accurate. On a number of previous instances, that hasn't always been the case. Now, in terms of what's been going on around the ship all day, as you can see from the daily schedule there's been plenty of activity. But it's a sea day, so a chance to chill out. And in the evening, time for another performance of the Trawlermen in the theatre. So again, this is the headliner act that performed on the first night, and they were back tonight with a different rendition of songs.
No, I can take you higher. Oh, I won't fly. Oh, I won't fly. Yesterday, country road.
Let's hear you singing up.
Take me home.
You can sing louder than that.
To the place
I can't hear you.
I belong. West Virginia.
Now you're part of the band.
On to mama.
Yeah, that's it.
Take me home.
Let's do it one more time.
My country road.
Like most nights, the piazza is certainly the hub of activity on the ship later in the evening. With a variety of different house bands playing there and people in the mood to dance the night away, it's certainly a lively spot. If you're like me and prefer to people watch rather than participate, the upper levels of the piazza provide the perfect place to do this. So that's exactly how I chose to close out day 4. Now that we're at the end of this midway section, I want to say thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please consider hitting the like button, and please consider subscribing to the channel. For now, all that remains to be said is good night,